of 12-month saga for all of us, and Greta's been very good to share her own experiences in that, and in one sense this is a bit of a symbol of that phase perhaps coming to a close. I don't want to say too much up front. I'll be talking a little bit later, and we'll hear from Greta and we'll hear from Herman as well, who helped to edit the book. Just to let you know, the bathroom is out and just behind us here, if you need that. We'll have the proceedings now, and there'll be a chance to purchase the book at the end of the night, and I'll tell you how that goes in just a little while. But we thought we'd set the scene by turning your attention to this screen, to the screen behind you here. Just bear with me while I switch it on. And cast your minds back. How many months ago? 14 months ago.
This was like March 24th.
Concerned relatives of 250 Australians stuck on a cruise ship in Europe are asking the Morrison government to intervene and help rescue the trapped passengers. The Costa Victoria has been denied entry in ports in both Asia and Europe amid global concerns about outbreaks of the virus and concern about an outbreak on the ship. It was expected to complete an emergency docking in Venice this Saturday, despite Italy being an epicentre for COVID-19. However, passengers have now been told they have to stay in their rooms due to a confirmed case on the ship, and there is uncertainty about whether they can disembark this weekend. Joining me now on the phone is Greta, one of the 250 Australians on the ship, and her daughter, Tori Archbold. Thanks so much to you both, Tori and Greta. Greta, first to you, let's start with the situation. What are the conditions like on the ship?
Conditions on the ship right now are a phase of panic, frightened, anxious, stressed, mainly over 60-year-olds. We're a community of Australians that are very close. We feel last night, after being told at 6:15 p.m. suddenly to be taken widely to go to our cabins and in full isolation. We were then treated like pigs, really. Excellent conditions. We were dumped food at our cabin doors and told to stay in our cabins. We have now had suddenly this morning a release statement by our captain that says, please wash your hands carefully. 20 alcohol-based sanitizer. We don't have any sanitizer. We have a cabin, like many, who do not have fresh air. They also say avoid close contact. Well, how can you avoid close contact when you're with 2 people or maybe 4 people? This is right. We have not at all times informed correctly of the truth. But the time, not time to take on more Australians and more overseas guests. Dubai was a time when Costa Victoria should have disembarked us all.
And what have you been told about the confirmed coronavirus case on board the ship?
Right, 1.5 days up, it was corrected, not being what they thought, but to the COVID-19 virus. What has happened? What is that question again? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if you've been told anything about the confirmed case. Apparently there's a confirmed case of COVID-19 on board that ship.
Yes, that case was taken off 1.5 days ago at Crete, and we all saw the boats surrounding our ship and were wondering what was going on. So we were not told anything. At that moment, we should have been told what was going on. Yesterday, the medical centre was busy with so many people. No one should have been there. Masks were everywhere, and the medical team did not say anything until last night. So they actually were very slow on the release of the truth of the information on board this ship. And yes, That case is a C19 and is apparently now in a stable condition at Crete, yes. But the virus will probably spread now throughout the ship, unfortunately. And as we are over 60-year-olds, a community, we are basically all very healthy. We have been a C19 virus ship, free that virus up until now. Now we are frightened, stressed and anxious.
With lack of communication.
No communication from our captains.
Let's go to Tori now, and the fellow family members of those on board. You have started a petition calling for the Morrison government to intervene. What would you like to see happen?
Well, I think there's a great sense of community with not only my family, but a lot of the families on board the ship at the moment. And as we are daily informed of what's going on, we're aware that most of the Australians on board are actually healthy. And so there's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to disembark and repatriate back to Australia. The issue that we have is a lack of communication between all the different parties coordinating everything, and it's a very slow time frame getting information out of Italy and of course locally as well.
And Tori, what contact have you had, you and your mother Greta, from the government and its agencies like the Department of Foreign Affairs?
There's no contact at all. We've been told to contact Smart Traveller, but what has happened with the media that we've managed to secure in the last 24 hours, we're now working directly with the owners of Tripadil, which a lot of the passengers on board that are Australian booked this cruise through, and DFAT have been in contact with them. And just before I went on air with you, I had news that they're very acutely aware of this situation. They've confirmed that there are no commercial flights flying out of Italy back into Australia, but they are working with Australian carriers to see what we can do to get a commercially owned flight to get these Australians back into the country.
So you are looking at those options in terms of flights out of Italy, Tori, for your mother and the other Australians on board, if they do disembark, because there's still some doubt as to whether that happens this weekend.
Yeah, there's a very big option that they won't be able to disembark, and the information we had this morning from the CEO of Tripadil was that they were allowed to dock just outside Venice. But because of the isolation rules and because that they have a coronavirus on board, the ship would be put into isolation on that dock outside Venice for up to 30 days. Obviously, this is not what we want, and if we do have healthy passengers on board, there must be another way that we can get them to disembark directly to a flight that will take them back to Australia. And there is a community Facebook group with all of the families going around at the moment. So there's a great sense of community with everyone reaching out to different departments of the government, both here and in Italy. And we're all working together as a team and a community to make sure that the government kicks into action and helps these Australians return to their families.
Tori, we wish you all the best with that. Greta too, stay safe, and we wish you all the best and good health at a very, very difficult time and stressful time for you, Greta and Tori. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support.
Okay.
That's just better say.
Concerned relatives of 250 Australians stuck on a cruise ship in Europe.
So this is a good idea of the scene, to set the scene. Remember last year, it was uncertain for all of us, and yet our friend Greta was on a ship in the middle of the Mediterranean with Italy going nuts with the virus. Of course, Italy had become the sort of second centre, and she's cruising the Mediterranean on a ship, and then there's a case of COVID. We didn't know how it was going to work out. Of course, Greta was on a ship stuck there with no certainty of what was going to come. So that's the drama, that's the setting the scene for this evening that led to the production of our book. I'd now like to welcome Greta's editor, Herman D'Hondt, to the front to say some things about the book. Herman.
Good evening, everybody. It's been quite a year for Greta, and I suppose for myself as well. There's I first met Greta back on the 6th of February last year. Both of us are opera lovers, but neither of us had any like-minded people to go and see an opera with. So we both went to Opera Australia's Opera for One, which is something they have on, or they used to have regularly, for people who want to go by themselves. We met there and we seemed to click, and then over the next 2 weeks we met again for dinner a couple of times. And then of course on the 20th of February she left on that fateful trip. We kept in touch regularly throughout the ordeal, so you could say that I did have a front row seat. Before she left on the trip, I offered to look after her pet fish, farm over. It's a Betta splendens, or splendid Betta, which is better known as Siamese fighting fish. He does have quite a big part in the book, and in fact I'm in there as well, and you find me in the book as her fishy friend. When Greta came home from trip, that was in the middle of the worst COVID time in Sydney, the end of March. There was very little to do, and to stave off boredom and to get over the stress of the trip, she decided to write about her experiences. During that time, we still kept in touch, and when she came back to Sydney, we did manage to occasionally drive together even during COVID times. As life got easier in the months after her return, I did see more of her, and we started to discuss how best to get that book to market. We both felt that it was an interesting and an important story. And we both felt that it had to be published while COVID was still foremost in people's mind. If it was delayed for a year, people might not realize what it was all about. So that's how Church on the Death Ship was born. Greta then, for whatever reason, decided that my electronics engineering qualifications were perfect to function as an editor. So effectively what that means is that all the good parts in the book are hers and all the mistakes are mine. With only one exception. She did insist on using that word flabbergasted us. Because the right way to describe the feeling. So that's the mistake. On rereading the book, I have noticed a couple more errors, and yes, they are mine. And if you find more of them, blame me. In the time that I've known her, I found Greta to be a fascinating person. She's led an amazing and unusual life, and you'll find some of the details about that in the book as well. She's extremely loyal to her friends, and it's a quality that shines throughout the book. She's also deeply involved with her religion and with God, which made her hold church services on the ship, hence the title, Church on the Death Ship. Let me finish by saying that while I'm proud to have been Greta's editor, I feel that I've been exceptionally lucky to become her friend and to discover what a special person she is. Church on the Death Ship is a reflection of those qualities. Thank you, Greta.
Thank you, Herman. Now it's my job to now launch the book, Church on a Death Ship, and I urge you to read it. I urge you to purchase it and read it. And the reason why that is so is that it is an extraordinary account of one person's experiences during the last year in which we all shared something of a crisis. And it's a vivid account. Now, knowing Greta as I do, as I read the book, I can hear her voice. And one of the things about Greta's literary style, which I've shared with her before, is that she uses exclamation marks a lot. which is how she speaks. She speaks like that. Another feature of the book, of course, is that shines through is how important food is Greta loves good food. And actually that becomes a very difficult part of the experience because as they are locked down, they're in lockdown on the ship, of course, the food becomes worse and worse and becomes more and more like a prison experience. There are some other elements of there are particular food items that recur, gin and tonics, and classic magnums, and in large part these, I think the dreams of these kept Greta going during her time on the Costa Victoria. But she's done us a real favour in recording her experience in this intensely personal and dramatic style. It's an easy read. It's a real page turner. And the way she writes, you can get her voice, as I said. And I remember, it was great to see, to recall this interview, because I remember about that time, I think we had a WhatsApp conversation either by text or by voice. I can't remember. And that anxiety and tension and stress that you could hear in Greta's voice there, that was extremely vivid in the book, which of course makes me feel compassion and distress for Greta that she's experienced it. But it's a great thing that she shared that with us so openly, and then shared with us the way in which her faith sustained her during those days. And that is, again, that's really the thing that comes back and back. You can hear the anxiety, but you can also feel the reassurance that she finds in turning to God. Nowhere more than when she and the other passengers shared a church service on, at least 2 church services, on the death ship, on the Costa Victoria. So this is a vividly told personal story. The most moving scenes for me were those chapel services, and she writes, with tormented times, this really was a test of our faith in God and where He would lead us. There was a shining bright light beaming onto the wall above the altar at the front of the chapel. And a little further on she says, we took the light as a sign of hope and faith that the Lord was holding us together to survive our ordeal. And that really sums up the book. It's a book of surviving an ordeal by faith in God. She talks about a personal miracle, and I actually put the search function on my Kindle to see which miracle, because actually there's about 10 incidents in the book that you could call where Greta uses the word miracle and said, this was a miracle, this was a miracle, this was a miracle. So it's not that there is a particular miracle in the book, but really that the whole experience Greta now holds up to us as a miracle of God's preservation of her in this time. We here at St Mark's pray for her in that journey, and I see the book and the record of an answer to that prayer. And so it is with great pleasure and joy and delight and prayers for its success that it is my pleasure to launch Church on a Death Ship. And I ask you to greet the book with acclamation and its order. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Greta some questions, and I will ask her some questions, and then we'll transfer some people for you to ask some questions, a couple of questions from the floor. If it gets too rowdy, I'll stop you, and it's a chance for us to hear from Greta herself. So the first question I have for you, Greta, is why did you decide to publish Church on a Death Ship?
Thank you, Michael. Because I documented everything from the word go, from the time I was picked up in the foyer, and that's the very beginning of the book, it was drama. So I just thought, wow. And as things progressed, I thought it was definitely a timely story. It was timely. And when I published it, it was last year in December. And the publisher said, don't do this. You have to do it in February. And I realised now why, but you would know why, because you self-publish yourself. But I said, no, I don't care about that. I just want to get the story out to the people because they must know what has gone on. So, it was talking to the women at the Significant Women's Group by Dr. Megan Best. Where are you? Here. You can stand up if you want to. She was just great. She was just great. When I came back, I was traumatised, as Michael said. Everything was just going and things were buzzing around, and I needed something to glue together. So I chose to do that course, and she approached me, and I went along. I didn't even pay, did I, to start with? I was the only one that didn't pay. I paid all my bills. I hadn't paid. She said, don't worry, you'll get around to it. And I did, and I did. And I stayed for the whole 8 weeks. I didn't miss one. And those girls were just amazing. And so I was encouraged to write my survival story. It was just maybe at the end, wasn't it? About the 6th week. And I think a lot of things were just buzzing around, and an incident happened, remember? Another incident, which is later in the book. And I thought, I've got to write this book. I've got it all documented, da-da-da-da, and you have given me faith in myself to do this. So I encouraged myself, and the girls encouraged me as well. So my task was easy you could say, because I had documentation, but it was traumatic. I couldn't tell you how traumatic it was. And I don't really want to reveal too much because it's still traumatic to me today. And as I had to, relive all the horrors at that time, all over again. And I felt my experience was a miracle that I did not catch the coronavirus, of course, because I was really positive, no more. And I know God assisted me in that survival. So I also thank St. Mark's for their prayers and my connect group here tonight, etc. All just fabulous people. Thank you. That's why.
Yes. So now that we've written, what do you hope we, the readers, what do you hope us to get from Church on a Dish?
You've got a survival kit. My survival kit. And the women. Going back to Megan again, we're resilient. Women are sorry, men. We are resilient. We are resilient creatures. We're determined, we're disciplined humans, and we can trust our own feelings, which we need to do. And I think men could take note of that. I got lucky, God gave me strength, hope, respect, and calm, and these 4 ingredients were central for my outcome. So that you just have to learn, whoever you are and whatever your circumstances, that you must learn the art of survival, no matter what it is, whether you're in a relationship with wherever you are, on a sinking ship or a coronavirus ship, whatever. You have to format your survival out in your head. Otherwise, you'll never make it. You have to be strong.
And so, thank you for that. And all, you get that from the book. I think you'll get more of this kind of insight. And the last thing I wanted to ask you was, before we turn it over to the audience, what wisdom can you share with the world as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 problem? Things going very badly in some countries in the world. We're waiting for the vaccinations here, of course.
I hope you've all had your jab. If you can, I've had mine. Well, I really think that, I'm joking, just the first line is a joke. Dark chocolate, gin and tonic, a classic Magnum. And they were made me survive. Really, I had to look forward to something, I can tell you. It wasn't until I got to the Dustin Hotel and they gave me stuff I should never have had and went to. But they helped me survive the whole thing. So the thing is not to be frightened. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened during these times. You mustn't be frightened. Keep focused on your own environment. Your own environment that surrounds you. You must do that. Be cautious at all times. You don't know when COVID is going to pop up again. This is here forever. It's not here for just now. So making wise decisions, navigate healthy solutions. And everyone knows me here, and I know you all know I'm an extremely healthy person. And I strive to be healthy all the time. And I think that's one of the things that you need to do to survive, and these times especially. And also daily fitness. Can you imagine me running up and down in a cabin with 2 people, right? And driving a person crazy, trying to be fit at all times. And get my 6,000 steps up. Getting into the bathroom, crying to God and saying, I can't stand this any longer. Please save me. deeply is definitely a positive. I wore a double mask in that cabin, and I do believe the air conditioning was poisoned virtually with tops, etc. But I wore a double mask. I was laughed at in the cabin, but I wore it. And I cleaned my hands every 10 or 15 minutes, and my hands were like, scrubbers, like peasants. And that was an awful thing too. I didn't have enough body lotion to fix that problem. Can you imagine? That was just so awful. So there we are. They were the things. And to receive your jab, we must do that to live through these times. And I feel we are fortunate living in Australia, this wonderful isolated country, this wonderful nation of ours. And hasn't our Prime Minister done such a great job? And didn't God do just such a great job for me? Because I really thought I was going to die.
Well, so some questions. Does anyone else want to ask a question? Yes, sir.
Are you still in touch with your current travellers at all?
Yes, I
Are
still
they on
have
the
that
book?
WhatsApp, and I've still got it on my mobile. Yes.
Okay.
So I keep in touch and I watch. A lot of them are trying to retrieve their money, and some of them are still going through traumas. Yes.
Yeah.
And there was one lady, a South Australian friend, that we united to do chapel services, etc. And she often helps. She's a psychologist.
Yeah, some other questions. Yes, without kind of asking Greta to give away spoilers. Though, spoiler alert, Greta survives.
So, Greta, given your trip started in India, and now we know what the situation is in India 14 months later, or 13 months later, was there any indication when you were in India, was there any problems there at that time?
No, and I thought there would be. I did.
But it was clear at that time?
It was clear at that time. It was perfect conditions to be there. When we got on the ship at Mumbai, that was a different story. Things started to develop. But you have to read the book. I can't tell you the story.
Anyone else? Yes, on that.
Greta, as you know, I'm a journalist, and as fate would have it, I have spent the morning at a cruise conference. One of the biggest cruise liners in the world out of America is launching this incredible ship, and they had all the journalists there, and it's all launching in Europe next year. Would you go on another cruise?
No,
And
no,
what
no.
do you think the future of the industry is? Do you think that's it? I mean,
Oh my goodness. Oh, no, that's such a question. That's a huge journalistic Yes, of course it does. And it's a very good one. I thought someone might ask that question. For me, right now, no. I've got a credit still. Sorry, maybe I have to go on sooner or later. But, I'd have to have it doesn't really suits me right now. I'm going to say yes. And I think anyone who's planning to go even next year, I think the model is stupid or positively totally stupid.
You've suspended for anyone.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm traveling here. Sorry, Susan.
that's fine. By coincidence, I've spent the last 2 days listening to the top 27 cruise lines in the world present where do we start from here. So on the positive side, I can say I know a lot more about air filtration systems, and they're probably safer on a cruise ship going forward than you are at your local supermarket. But putting that to one side,
That's good news.
I too saw a white light, as you know, back in April. So I'm curious to know about your white light on the ship.
You'll have to read about it.
Okay.
Could you give us just a little bit of a glimpse of the one?
Or how that helped you, because I know my white light helped me. And I find it rather ironic that you should be launching your book tonight on like 27 cruise line indoctrination. The serendipity of it all.
Yes, I finished reading and I sat down and my South Australian friend put Amazing Grace on, etc. And then the light came and everyone saw it. You couldn't deny it. And it was a Roman Catholic chapel, and it was over